It's California Guardian out here in San Diego. Hey, this is California Guardian. California Guardian. Go fondle your flashlight. I've always been involved in some kind of activism, really different types of activism. When I was in college, and but I was actually watching videos on YouTube, which got me interested in filming and stuff, and that related kind of stuff. And I actually saw a video. Cop watches, mostly cop watches. The first people I believe saw was like Onus News, Ida Foxy Queen, and I saw some Tony Vera stuff. And really the first auditor I ever really saw was High Desert Community Watch. So when I saw some stuff on some of those videos, it like pissed me off, you know. But I know that one of the things that really wanted me to get involved in recording the government or recording the police and activism was I read an article about a grandmother who had taken her kid or grandchild to a military base, and they were like taking pictures, and they came out and confiscated her camera and forced her to delete the videos and the footage of this kid. And this kid is actually like, you know, wanted to be a soldier when he grew up and stuff. But what actually made me finally pick up a camera and actually do audits was there was an audit of the my local sheriff's department by High Desert and Teen for Justice and Cali Girl. And when I saw that, I said, "Oh, I can do that," you know. And so I went and I got a camera and started doing audits. Yes. I would say I have been scared several times. You know, I've been in handcuffs a few times where I thought I was going to jail. I've been in handcuffs where I have gone to jail for activism. You know, as many people know, I currently have 2 criminal cases pending. I have the one in Los Angeles with Ohio Guardian, where we both potentially could do prison time. So yes, I do get scared doing this. You know, let's be honest, I have a fear of going to prison. You know, people die in prison, people die in jail. You know, in Gilroy, when I was arrested, there was a fear. There had been several in-custody deaths in Santa Clara County Jail just a couple weeks prior to me going up there. And, you know, I was worried about my freedom. I was worried that I wouldn't be free for my other trial, or that I might, you know, lose my freedom and have to fight from inside. You know, I would say unlike some others, like, you know, CCW in San Diego, I've never had a gun pulled on me and had a cop point a gun at me doing this activism. You know, but there's always a fear. There's always a fear that the cops are going to arrest you, make up charges. There's always a fear that, you know, you might get a trigger-happy cop. I mean, there have been photographers shot, you know. Last year there was a mainstream media guy that was recording a traffic stop who got shot. About a year and a half ago, there was another guy that was sitting in his driveway and was filming the cops across the street from his house who got shot. So I think to say that people are not afraid, the photographers don't have fear, they're not scared, you know, people with cameras have been killed by the police or have been shot by the police. And, you know, I mean, every time we go out there, there is a fear that the police are going to be violent. There's always a fear that, or no uncertainty that you might have crossed a line that you weren't aware that you crossed, and that you might be in handcuffs and be locked up. But like I always say, if you're not willing to be put in handcuffs, put down the camera and do something else. You know, support us by making a phone call. Support us by sending an email, or you know, like I always tell people, all activists are just as equal, whether you're the guy picking up the camera or whether you're the guy who's making donations to keep the guy on the street, or if you're the guy that makes the phone calls that lets them know that the auditor's not alone.
Excuse me? I'm taking pictures.
Okay, you realize military installation, you can't take photos of the base.
You realize I'm not on the base.
Okay, but you're still getting... You mind taking the camera out of my face, please?
Well, you walked it to me. So I'm not on your base, so you need to go back on your base.
Well, you can't be taking...
I'm going to continue to take pictures right here where I'm at, because I can.
Photos of the gate?
Because I can, sir.
You
Go
can't
back on
take
your
photos of the
base. Watch me.
You can't take photos of the base,
Well,
right?
I'm going to take pictures of the base. Go back on your property.
Sure.
This is city property. It's not federal property where I'm at.
Senator Franklin Gate.
You ever heard of freedom of the press? Freedom of speech? What's your name and badge number there?
Why?
Are you not required to identify yourself when you make contact with the public?
You see my name right here?
What's your badge number there? I don't see a badge on your uniform.
Yeah, it's under my jacket.
Franklin Gate traffic for pump center.
Why don't you go back on your property, Jackson? I don't think you're a police officer out here.
No problem. Photos of Franklin Gate.
I'm just letting you know, man. For the policy of the installation, you can't be taking photos of the gate, man.
That's fine. You can go on your... I'm not on your base, so I'm not bound by your policies.
So, trying to keep you out of trouble. That way, you know. You're getting in.
I'm not going to be in trouble. Have a nice day.
Are you from Monterey?
I don't answer questions.
I have a couple audits that really stand out for me. My Santa Ana U.S. Courthouse audit was one that really stands out for me, because the arrogance of the arrogance of the U.S. Marshal that came out, and like, just because he was a U.S. Marshal, I was supposed to bow down to his demands. And ultimately, I stood my ground, and the marshals stepped away. You know, another one that really stands in my mind is the one at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Los Angeles, where the lieutenant, the prison guard, escalated and began, you know, not only did they attack silent citizen and steal his cameras, but while I was in retreat in the street, she proceeded to pepper spray me. Just her wanton disregard for the law. You know, and then I think the most recent one that really stands out in my mind is my Gilroy arrest. I think you know, it's one of my most polite and courteous audits, and where, you know, I think I painstakingly explained to the officer, and in fact I begged the officer to call his supervisor or to contact his city attorney, and he totally disregarded the law and ultimately said, well, it doesn't matter, I may be wrong, but we'll let the courts settle it. And that's really what's become of law enforcement today. They don't care about the law, they just care about, you know, because they're protected with that bogus qualified immunity. That it doesn't matter if they break the law, it doesn't matter if they violate your rights, because we'll just let the courts settle it. And most people don't have the resources or the time to really fight these cases in the court system. I've learned many different things from different activists. I've learned that you have to be a real activist, you have to be willing to work with others, even if you don't necessarily agree with the way that they do things. I've also learned, that you have to stand your ground and you have to be willing to bite the bullet. And I don't mean literally bite the bullet. I mean, you have to be willing to stand your ground and allow the circumstances to move and develop the way they are. I have learned that you do also have to be careful about who you audit with or who you go out with and film with, because not everybody has your best interest at heart. I also learned you have to be ready. You always have to be prepared, for the unexpected. Don't go in thinking it's going to be an easy audit and that you're going to walk away and everything's going to be peachy-dory, because sometimes the most, what you think is going to be the easiest audit are where you think maybe the cops have learned and you're not going to have any problems, you're just doing a follow-up, or you're just trying to see how they're going to react differently this time from last time, and you actually end up getting a worse.
Huh?
Why you are waiting here?
Sir, you don't need no help. You can go back to work.
Pardon?
You can go back to work, sir.
No, I'm asking you, what are you doing,
What does it look like I'm doing?
What?
What does it look like I'm doing?
So you cannot do pictures, taking pictures here. It's a private property.
Who says I can't do that?
Okay.
I'm on a public sidewalk. Am I on your property?
This is a private
You
property.
don't have to tell us we're grown adults.
Okay.
We don't need to be told what to do, sir. You go back to work.
You don't want to tell me that to go to work,
Sir, go back to work.
Okay. I'm putting all cops right now.
No, you're not. I'm not calling nobody because you don't have the ball.
Rights not exercised are rights that you lose. I think it's something I've heard many times from many people. Rights not exercised are rights that you lose. You have to flex your rights. You have to establish these rights, because otherwise they will try to take them away. They'll slowly erode that right or chip it away, or they'll make a rule which everybody thinks is okay rule that actually is unconstitutional or is an unlawful rule. Also something that I've heard many people say, and I'm going to butcher it, but, to give up your rights for freedom or to give up your rights for safety or security, well, you don't deserve those rights, because people have died for those rights. Okay, there are people who have died so that you can pick up a camera and record in public. There are people that have died for the right for you to be protected in your persons, property, and papers. And as long as people have their cameras confiscated, as long as people are arrested for filming, as long as people are arrested and unlawfully searched, that this is why we do this, and this is why we will continue to do this. Because if you give up one right, they're going to try to take another. If you allow them to restrict a right, they're going to try to restrict it some more. There's a point in time that we need to stand up and put our foot in the ground and draw a line in the sand so that we can establish that this is our right. And our constitutional rights are protections under the United States Constitution. However you want to word it, however you want to see it, our freedoms, our protections, our God-given rights are under attack in this country. And they're really under attack by both sides, whether it's the far left or the far right. Everybody wants to take your rights away. And unfortunately, we live in a country where people will protect your rights as long as they agree with them. Once they don't agree with them, all of a sudden it's okay to infringe on your rights. I do this because it's not okay to infringe on anybody's rights, even if I don't agree with them. It's not okay for me to infringe on your right just because I'm offended. You don't have a right to be offended. My advice to an auditor preparing for his first audit is to be yourself. Don't try to be California Guardian. Don't try to be News Now Houston. Don't try to be High Desert Community Watch. Don't try to be San Joaquin Valley Transparency. Don't try to be anybody else but yourself. Take what you can from other auditors. Definitely watch other auditors' videos. Learn how they do things. But be yourself. Also, learn the laws in your states. Things that you see me get away with in California may not necessarily be legal in the state you're from. Okay? Every state has different laws. So if you hear me quote a law or you hear me cite a case, it doesn't necessarily mean that that law applies in your state. That's my biggest thing, is learn your laws, because, you know, Turner versus Driver, which is great in Texas, doesn't apply in California. Glick versus Cuniff, which applies on the East Coast, doesn't apply in California. You know, Fordyce versus Seattle applies in California, but it doesn't mean anything in New York, it doesn't mean anything in Texas. So learn your laws. Also be prepared. Always carry money in your pocket. Always carry money in your pocket. Leave your credit cards and your debit cards at home, or in your car, or wherever you parked. But make sure you have money in your pocket, because the police might stalk you. And you know, part of what we do is, you know, unreasonable search of our property, persons, and papers. For me, your papers is your ID. In a modern sense, today, papers includes your ID, your identity, who you are. And while other jurisdictions have some variants of it, you know, in some states, once they've detained you for reasonable suspicion, that you have to give your name. In some states, once you've been arrested for a criminal offense, you have to give your name. In some states, you don't have to give your name until you're booked. But you need to know which state you're in and which state law applies. And you have to also be willing to see how far you want to push it. Because I live in a state where you don't have to ID until you're booked in jail, unless you know, like you're driving or you're on probation or parole. But otherwise, a citizen on the sidewalk doesn't have to ID to the police at all, unless they've been arrested for a crime and are being booked into jail. But I'm currently facing criminal charges for not IDing. So you have to be willing to know what your laws are in your state, and be willing to stand your ground, and be willing to have handcuffs put on you. But be prepared. Have money in your pocket. I would always suggest to everybody that they have Lyft on their cell phone in case they need a ride because they can't get to their car because they're being stalked by the police. Again, if you have Uber, I guess that's okay. I'm not an advocate of Uber. I'm an advocate of Lyft. But hey, have a ride-share program on your cell phone, whether it's Lyft or Uber or any other local group you have, because you might need to get a ride out of there. You might not be able to go to your car because the police are following you, and as has been shown in many videos, they follow you to your car, and then they follow you, and they pull you over on some kind of pretext stop, so they get your identification. So that's one of my recommendations. Always make sure you have some type of alternative transportation. whether it's a bus pass for the local bus system, a Lyft app on your cell phone, an Uber app on your cell phone. And just be yourself. I can't emphasize that. When you prepare for your first audit, you need to be for yourself. You need to make sure that you have money. Make sure that you have a mode of transportation besides the car you came in. Make sure that you have batteries. Make sure your batteries and your camera are fully charged. Make sure you have enough space on your SD cards to continuously record, because you know you might do a 5-minute video, you might end up doing an hour video. You know, I've been in a situation where I was recording at night and my camera died, and I got pushed, shoved, and I had a cop with his hand on his gun, unsnapped his holster, was about to pull his gun on me because I was trying to get batteries for my camera. So always make sure that your batteries in your camera are fully charged. Make sure that you are ready for that. Make sure if you're auditing at night or cop watching at night, that you have a flashlight. You have an ability to see at night. You have an ability to shine your flashlight, because where you're filming might be too dark and you might not be able to catch what you're filming. And remember, when we film, especially if you're doing a cop watch, your camera might save someone's life, or it might save somebody from criminal charges for something that they did not do. It might protect them and save them from getting false charges. So, you know, always carry a checklist with you. You know, make sure you have money. Make sure you have a transportation. Make sure you have enough batteries. Make sure you have an extra SD card or enough space on the SD card that you're using. Make sure you have a flashlight. I always recommend that you try not to have any weapons, because that can be used as an excuse to go hands-on with you. It can be an excuse to put you in handcuffs. It can be an excuse to use violence on you. That's my suggestion. You, of course, have to decide based upon what state and what you're doing. I mean, obviously, if you're doing a Second Amendment audit, a right to bear arms audit, then I guess you'd carry a weapon, so that wouldn't apply there. But always be situational. You know, if you're going to go into or onto court property, into or onto a police department, try not to have a weapon, because, you know, they get kind of hinky when you do that, and they get kind of, could put you in unwarranted danger. And always try to be focused. Always try to make sure that you go home as safely as possible, or if you know you're going to push the envelope, that you get to jail safely and unharmed, so that you can another day film.
Get permission first.
This is county property, sir. I have the right to record on county property.
Permission from inside.
I don't need permission, sir. I'm in a public area, sir. Go back
I'll find
inside.
out.
Go back inside.
Don't tell me what to do.
Go back
Don't you
inside.
know?
Well, don't tell me what to do. Then get the fuck out of my face.
Don't say that kind of word in here.
This is America. Freedom of speech.
Don't, that's freedom of
of
speech in a court.
speech. This is a courthouse. Where else do you have freedom of speech? That's the ultimate place of freedom of speech.
Oh, it's freedom of
You know what,
speech
D.
is
Morton? Go inside. Go talk to somebody who actually knows something, not some
not-
little
what, I
toy
don't want
security
sitting on that.
guard.
Then that doesn't know anything.
Yeah, go inside. You don't know nothing. This is a public courthouse. Steps is a public forum.
You're not on the steps, sir.
This is the courthouse.
It's not the steps.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye, rent-a-cop.
Lisa.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Go play with your handcuffs and your flashlight.
Okay, I got him.
Public forum. Open to the public. County building. First Amendment of the United States. You know what that means? You know what the First Amendment, you know what the Constitution means? I know you didn't swear an oath because you're not a cop, but I mean, you do understand the Constitution, right? You do believe in the United States Constitution?
Hi, ma'am.
So why don't you go back inside
I'm just standing here.
and go fondle your flashlight?
No, I'm fine.
You're definitely not an elite security officer. You're more like a
Do whatever, say what
top
you
flight,
want.
huh?
Hey,
Top flight security right here.
all right.
Top flight security.
they are beneficial and they help you to understand me and give you a insight into why I do what I do, and why I hope that you will either pick up a camera, pick up your phone, send an email, make a phone call, do something to help protect other people's rights. Our rights are under attack, and they're continually under attack, and we need to stand up and fight. And sometimes we have to push the envelope. I know there are people out there that go, "Oh, you guys do too much. You guys go too far." Well, sometimes you have to push. You know, we're fighting back against people who want to restrict and take away your rights. If you don't push back, you're going to end up conceding the space. So I hope that these answer the questions appropriate that were asked of me, and if anybody has any further questions or clarification on my answers, please feel free to talk to me on one of my live streams on my live stream channel, or send me an email. And thanks, guys.